Like Bill was saying, I'm going to do a presentation today on dashboards, specifically dashboards in context of asset management. So what I'm going to do today is just we're going to walk through some basics of that operations dashboard, and then we're going to take a deep dive into showing them how to configure them, some of the options we have there, and also we're going to take a look at a lot of examples and just kind of see what's out there when it comes to dashboards. And as Mitch touched on earlier, dashboards have really been gaining steam. As recently, even as he pointed out with the John Hopkins dashboard. This one I feel like was kind of just plastered, to our TVs, to our computer screens, and it really brought a lot of attention to the potential of dashboards. Like I said, we're starting to see more and more, so we're going to go over some asset management dashboards today. And like Bill mentioned, let's go ahead and let's open the room, let's gauge the room. This is my lame attempt at humor. But I do have some poll questions for everybody. So really, I just want to know people's experience level with Operations Dashboard, whether or not you've used one, whether or not your organization is currently utilizing Operations Dashboard, and whether or not you've actually built or configured a dashboard yourself. So I'll just give this a little bit. We'll get some answers coming in. Almost there.
Good responses so far. Looks pretty split, really.
I'm only slightly offended that more people are responding to yours. Like a Southern politician trying to get people to donate to a cause.
Well, I won't do any pandering, so but feel free to answer at your leisure. And it looks like we're pretty much there.
Yep, I'll go ahead and close it here.
Yeah, and it looks like we're
share
split.
Results. Yeah, pretty split.
So the third question there is the one that I'm pretty much most interested in, whether or not people have actually built or configured an operations dashboard. So it looks like we're leaning a little bit more towards no, which is good. We'll go ahead and we'll kind of go through the basics of building a dashboard, some of the configuration options we have available to us. And then, like I said, we'll dive into a demo of some of the stuff that we can do and show you just how easy it is really to build and configure these dashboards. And then we'll look at some examples. So thanks, Bill, for launching that poll. Let's go ahead, and this is just kind of an operations dashboard overview, and I pulled this straight from Esri because I feel like they worded this really well when it comes to what dashboards are. So operations dashboard for ArcGIS is a configurable web app that provides location-aware data visualization and analytics for a real-time, that's key, for a real-time operational view of people, services, assets, and events. So from a dashboard, we can see the activities and performance indicators that are most vital and most important to your organization's objectives. So what does that mean? What are dashboards? The quote just pointed out, dashboards are visualizations of your data. And they visualize your data through highly configurable and highly interactable elements within the dashboard. Some key configurable elements of a dashboard usually include a map or multiple maps of your data, whatever we're looking at. There's usually a lot of charts, usually gauges, indicators, some lists of our data. So combined with all these different elements, dashboards are, again, like I said, highly interactable, and they're highly configurable. No one dashboard really is the same from another. Of course, they can be, but again, a lot of dashboards that I like to see are very unique, and they fit certain purposes, and they have certain goals. And dashboards provide the ability to view status and performance metrics of our assets, like our culverts, our bridges, our structures, our street signs, our hydrants, whatever asset you have. Or even people or services. And again, we can see those all in real time. That's a key benefit of dashboards. However, I like to point out that dashboards are not certain things, and I say a primary editing environment, and I say that kind of with a caveat that, of course, much like Hub, we can actually embed items within the dashboard. So for example, we can embed a survey within a dashboard that we can use to collect data right from within the dashboard itself. We don't even have to leave it, but I do like to say dashboards are more visualizations of data. That's whether that's collected out in the field using quick capture, like Micah had just showed us, collector, survey 123. So again, while it's possible through an embedded content, I do like to say dashboards are not a primary editing environment. You're not going into a dashboard to edit and maintain data. They are not a one-size-fits-all solution. Like I said before, they're highly configurable to meet certain metrics or to view certain assets. So again, one dashboard is not a cookie cutter cutout of another dashboard. So how do dashboards work? So really, it's just as simple as launching the solution. You begin with a blank template. From there, you can build out your dashboard by adding those elements that I mentioned earlier. We're going to utilize maps, charts, gauges, indicators, and lists to break down our data and to give us visualizations of those metrics that we want to see of our data. We're going to incorporate all that data within the dashboard. From there, you can configure the layout so you can put those elements within the dashboard where you want them to live, so you can better kind of maintain and manage the end user's flow throughout the dashboard. You can guide them throughout by configuring the layout how you want them to be guided. And the next step is to integrate that interactivity. So within those elements, we can interact with those. We can make selections from them. We can filter our data by those elements. And I'll show you some of that within our demos as well. And from there, once your dashboard is built, you've got your elements in there, you've got your layout configured and your interactivity built in within those elements. From there, we can share a dashboard to whatever the end user will be, whether that's the general public or whether that's an administrative group within your organization. From there, that's kind of the last step to getting that dashboard out into the hands of the end users. So really, what makes a good dashboard? Why do some dashboards stand out as opposed to some others? Well, before, like I kind of mentioned, we have to determine the dashboard's audience. Who is going to be the end user? Who's going to be using this dashboard? Because as we know, with the other Esri apps, different user groups are going to require different data and functionalities built within them. So if we're making a dashboard for the public to be able to consume, maybe we're going to trim back some of the elements within that dashboard. Maybe we'll give them a map to give them a visualization of the spatial location of certain data or certain assets. Maybe we'll give them a list and some graphs. But for an administrator, they might want to see a more detailed, a more in-depth breakdown and visualization of that data. So we might have a lot more charts and elements and stuff within our dashboard as opposed to some of the just a quick dashboard with a few elements. So next we want to decide what the dashboard's focus is going to be. So what data is most important to our end users? What performance metrics do they value over other performance metrics? And how can we make those front and center within our dashboard? Next is going to be selecting the proper elements to best display our data, best show those performance metrics. So certain dashboard elements portray and have different interactivity within their data differently than others. So again, how can we best display those key performance metrics that we're most interested in? And that's going to depend on how we build our elements. And again, how they're arranged also can make a big difference within the dashboard as well. So what are some of the benefits of using dashboards? Well, dashboards help to provide an encompassing view of all of our data, whatever we're interested in tracking, to better help inform organizational decision-making. And that's key because that's what it's about. That's about using our location-aware data to help us perform and analyze our data and make actions to move forward with. We're going to be able to customize our data to display that data as you see fit. And we also have the ability, like I said before, we're going to be able to see our data in real time. So if somebody makes updates to that data, we're going to be able to see those updates real time within our dashboard. And using the dashboards, we can identify those key data trends and characteristics that we're most interested in to move forward and help us make those action plans and stuff like that. So now that I've just got a quick brief overview of kind of what dashboards are, how we can make them, what are some of the key stuff we're looking for in dashboards, I'd like to go ahead and do some demos and look at some good examples of some asset management focused dashboards so we can kind of see how this stuff all just ties together. Let me go ahead and exit, open up some of these. All right, so here is the Highway Manager dashboard, and this is for Stark County, Illinois. I like to show this one off just because it includes multiple assets that they're able to see within their one dashboard. So we'll kind of use this as kind of a model too, that we can go in and we can change some of the settings and we can kind of play around with this too. So this is the kind of basic structure of a dashboard. When we look at a dashboard, we're going to be able to see, again, all of these different elements. within the dashboard to help us convey that data back to us. So here what I've done is I've created a few data filters for their dashboard. We can see this is kind of an overview tab. I have several tabs kind of stacked on top of each other here in this dashboard. We can see this overview tab is going to give us an overview of all the structures that they're most interested in. So their bridges, their culverts, and their county highways. We're going to be able to see all those assets here on the overview page. If I flip forward to the individual tabs, I'm going to have the ability to break down those different assets and have some more elements associated with those and break that data down a little bit further for us. So if I go back to the overview page, we're going to see these are some good examples of some elements available to us within a dashboard that we can use to convey our data to our end users. So here I can see I've got just a pie chart of the structure condition of my structures in Stark County. I also have just a kind of a quick legend here, a breakdown of how many structures fall within that category. So say I want to see the amount of structures that are just very good. So if I go ahead and I can interact with this element, I can select, hey, just show me, it's basically filtering my data based on my selection within the element itself in the dashboard. So you can see when I selected very good, it updated the total number of structures that are listed as in very good condition. And it also went ahead and filtered the average sufficiency rating of those structures. So say right now I can only select one. Say maybe I want to do, for whatever reason, maybe I want to select multiple. I want to be able to interact with this element a little bit differently than I do now. So when it comes to configuring an element, we just have certain options available to us. Each one we can move it, we can rearrange it within the layout itself. So if we wanted this to be docked somewhere else, we can simply move it throughout the dashboard. If we wanted to configure some of these settings and how we have this element structured, we can go configure those here within the specific element itself. So I'll go ahead and I'll click configure. Here it's just going to give me several different tabs and layers of configuration that I have available to me that I can use to configure this element. So here we're seeing what layer it's pulling from. We can add a filter if we wanted to do so. We can see how we want our element to be structured. We're pulling categories from group values and we're giving it a field. So in this element, show me the structure condition field. And we can also see any statistics too available with us. So I'm just showing the total number of structures as they're defined in the structure condition field. Next, we can even customize some of the stuff on our chart here. So we can say, we can edit text color, all this good stuff available to us here. I won't dive too much into that. But we can even go ahead and we can update colors. We can manage any of the little minor stuff within our elements. And when I say highly configurable, they are very highly configurable. You can configure really basically any part of this element to fit your needs. One thing I would like to point out too is this actions. So this is kind of where our interactivity is built in with these dashboard elements. So when I say, when I make a selection within my dashboard element, I can add a target to filter. Or what I could even do is I could even, in some elements, I can zoom to my features, my selected features. I can make them flash, make them stand out in the map. So certain elements also have more layers of interactivity built in those specific elements as well. Say I want to change my selection mode to multiple. I'll go ahead and I'll just make that a simple change. I'll click done to update this dashboard element, reflect those updates I've made. So now, whereas before I would just select one and it would filter the element and the subsequent infographics, it would just be that one selection. But since I made it a multiple selection, what I can do now is I can select another attribute from this dashboard element, and it's going to allow me to interact with that element differently than before. And again, I have kind of some of the same configurations built in across this specific dashboard for continuity for the end users. So again, if I wanted to interact with the culverts types the same way, I would simply, again, select from the element itself, and it filters the total counts at the top. Say I wanted to add a new element to this specific dashboard. Well, I would do so up here from this little plus button, kind of on the top ribbon here of the operations dashboard menu. From here, you can see all the different things that we can add into our dashboard to help us see those performance metrics of our assets. So I can add in a map, I can give it a header, I can give it a legend, a chart, a pie chart or a serial chart. indicators, which are kind of like these numbers here that just kind of give us an indicator of, in this case, our number of assets. We can give us some gauges, some lists, some details, or we can even embed content into our dashboards. So that's kind of the process for adding in and configuring elements. So I'll kind of utilize some of these filters real quick. We'll kind of do a quick demo of this. Say I wanted to go to my culverts assets, and I'm going to want to filter some of these so I can better see some data associated with these certain types of culverts that I'm most interested in. So say I wanted to select my culverts by their specific conditions. Say I'm interested in coming up with a plan to maintain my culverts, and I want to kind of just use my dashboard here to help me come up with that plan based on some of the asset attributes. So I want to look at my culverts that are in serious condition. These are going to be the ones I'm going to focus my efforts most heavily on moving forward as I plan for next year's construction schedule, for however much I need to do to update these culverts and make them better. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select for my filter culverts that are in serious condition. And again, what I've done is I've built in some interactivity between these elements so that when I select a filter, it's filtering not only my map, it's not just filtering those features from my map, it's also filtering my selections from my other elements as well. You can see my culvert types graph was also filtered to reflect those culverts that meet that specific filter condition. And you can also see my list and my infographic changed here as well to kind of update that. So again, it's very highly configurable in dashboards. You can configure all these elements to talk with each other, to interact with each other. Say I necessarily didn't want my filters to be able to filter these specific elements. Well, I can configure that so that's not the case. But that just kind of shows how highly configurable some of these dashboards are. So again, even if I wanted to get even more specific with my culverts, say I wanted to see the culverts that are in serious condition and that are the corrugated metal pipe culverts, I can select that from here, and it's even going to further filter my culverts here as well. Say I also want to look at a specific culvert. Well, here from my list that I've added into this dashboard, I can go ahead and I can select a culvert. I can have it zoom into the culvert. I can select the culvert from the map. I can see the pop-up within the map to show me some additional information regarding my culvert. So this is a good example I like to show of kind of just an overview of asset management for a dashboard. The next one I like to show, this is for a road centerline, a PCI inspection dashboard. This is one that we put together for the Village of Western Springs. And it kind of operates along the same guide as the highway manager's dashboard that we just looked at. But this one is for adding MPCI, their modified PCI inspections for their road center lines. Here we can see we've got filters kind of again along the same side. We can select our PCI inspections by the year that they were performed. We can select by the actual rating that they received, by the average daily traffic on these roads. We can select by the road base, the road type, and by street name as well. So here we have, again, we're utilizing tabs to kind of stack data on top of each other, to stack these different dashboard elements on top of each other to separate our dashboard out. We're looking, again, at an overview tab. So here we're seeing just the PCI inspection records that were submitted from January 1st of 2019 to December 31st of 2019. And that filter is also filtering our other dashboard elements as well, not just our map. So much like our other dashboard, we're using these filters to better help us visualize the data that we are most interested in here. If I go to the MPCI by road tab, it's going to break it down a little bit further and let me interact with these PCI inspections on per road center line individually. But what I'd really like to point out here is what I did was I just kind of made a copy of this dashboard that I could play around with it. And what I did was I embedded a survey form within this dashboard. So this is the survey form that is used to inspect these road center lines and perform the PCI inspections out in the field. So as their crew is going out, they're driving on each road, they have this survey form pulled up in Survey 123, and they can just fill it out as they go. And when they're done, they submit it, and it lives as a related record to that specific road center line. And this will be kind of a process that Matt will get into a little bit later in his Survey 123 demo, so I won't want to step on his toes here. But I did want to point out with this, again, we can embed this Survey 123 form within our dashboard as well. So if we had a dashboard that we say had the capability or wanted to have the capability of kind of updating data or collecting data from within the dashboard itself, we do have that ability within the dashboard to embed a Survey 123 form or to embed a web app or embed a web map within that dashboard as well. So that is one thing I did want to point out with this particular dashboard. The next one I want to go ahead and look at is from Johns Creek, which is also utilizing a data hub to kind of tie back into even Hunter's presentation. We can embed these have these dashboards within our data hub too as well. So here's one that they've got in Johns Creek. It's just a public works projects dashboard to help convey to the public, hey, these are the projects we've worked on. We can see their work orders by priority, their top 5 most completed work order tasks, and how many work orders by year they've completed. And we can see a density map here, a dot density map of where those work orders are happening. But the thing I do like to point out with this dashboard is, again, it's within a hub site, so we can get these dashboards out. We can get them into the hands of the general public. We can make them very accessible to them. So hey, we can convey what we're working on, what we're doing for you. We can show them the dashboard, and we can get that to them in a hub site. Up next, I'll go ahead and we'll take a quick look at the DC Department of Transportation, and this dashboard actually comes to you in the form of a story map. So again, we can put these dashboards in a lot of cool places. We can do a lot with them when we convey them to the general public. So here again, they've got kind of a tabular structure for their dashboard, like how they have here set up in their story map. They're looking at an overview. They're giving us some overview information of how they keep track of all of their pavement stuff. We can break it down again by asset. So if we wanted to open up the dashboard, they've got their paving information broken up by roads, by sidewalks, by alleys and markings. And I really like doing that, breaking it up by assets. If we want to have it all in one dashboard or all in one format, I do like having those tabular setups in there, just again, because we're not overwhelming the end user with all this information and all these dashboard elements. We can break it up specifically to help kind of eliminate all that overwhelmingness of maybe if we have all these elements and all these different features in our map. This just kind of help avoids that and breaks it down specifically by asset. So we can see on their roads what they've got for their setup in their dashboard. They can see the total number of completed paved miles, how many substantially completed miles they've got, which pavements are under construction, and how many miles they have planned for their pavements. We can even check that out if we go to the sidewalks tab. We can see that it updates based on the sidewalks. So we can even select again from a list if we want to know a little bit more about a specific sidewalk that they've got going on. We can zoom to that and they can make it flash for us, make it stand out. This is the one we're talking about. They give us some information here in their list to help us kind of navigate this as well. We can see this is the one that they're working on. It's just a 1/10 of a mile long. It's under construction, so they're working on that one there. So the next one I'm going to go ahead and go to is Maryland Department of Transportation. This is their Road Ready dashboard. This one I like to show off because it's got some cool interactivity that I like to point out. So we can zoom into, they've got a roads layer in here that shows us kind of where their construction is happening and how many projects they've completed in the last 60 days. We can see the projects by speed limit. We can see the active projects by their jurisdictions, by their counties. And we can see when we select from any of these elements, it's going to, again, filter some of the other elements that we have. So if we're just looking at Howard County, they completed 20 in 2020, and there's 11 more projects in progress. The next one we'll take a look at is Brampton in Ontario. This is their road closures and lane restrictions dashboard. And I like to show this one just because it's a good example of how configurable, again, dashboards are. You can see this must be their city's color scheme, or I don't know why. It's very kind of bold, again, with all these colors. It just shows you how much we can configure dashboards to convey information to the general public. So I do like to point out how much they actually have configured this one. They've gone into each one of these elements. They've updated the color scheme on every single one of these elements, and this must be something that must be universal to them. But this is a very configured dashboard. Next, we can see Michigan bridge conditions. And again, this dashboard is coming to us in the form of a story map. They've got some overview information here for us. We can see all of their bridges and their structures throughout Michigan here in their map. We wanted to know a little bit more about what they're doing, about how this stuff is maintained and the conditions are applied, the ratings are applied. They give us that helpful information here. Say we wanted to go ahead and look at some posted and closed bridges. They've got all that stuff outlined for us here as well. And we can see when we select these tabs, it's filtering data again in the actual map itself. So if we wanted to go ahead and look at some other dashboard stuff that they've got, this one is just chock full of helpful information and helpful charts, graphs, gauges for us that help convey some of the information here that they're wanting to get out to us. So again, they've got some filters for us up here we can use to even narrow our results as well as we look at our data and look at some of these bridge conditions. We can see that they've got 25% of their bridges in good. They've got 67% of them are in fair. All of their bridges here are broken down like that. So if I applied a filter, we can see that since I selected poor, it's going to just show, hey, when I select this filter, this is how it interacts again with these other dashboard elements to convey our information to our end users. And finally, the last dashboard I wanted to show off here is one that kind of shows the real-time aspects of dashboards. So this is a snowplow monitoring dashboard. I think this is just using some example data, but you can see what they have is they've got their snowplow monitoring set up real-time so that we can track all the different trucks throughout throughout our organizational area. So real-time, we're conveying this to the public. Hey, here's where our snowplows are. Here's the roads that are not plowed. These are the ones we have plowed, and you can see our trucks are updating their location. Here's where our trucks are going to. Here's where they've been. So we can see even the averages truck speed, the status of our streets we can see, and what kind of complaints here on the right side that have been submitted by the general public, most likely in the form of a Survey 123 form or in some other way, maybe citizen problem reporter, but in some way that the public has entered these complaints, and we can see that some of the information breaking down here, we can see what the general complaint category is. Hey, we need our street plowed desperately. We're going to submit that. Some mailboxes have been hit. We can see those complaints even here on the map as well. And again, we're looking at another list, kind of breaking down some of those lists or some of those complaints more in detail here as well. So I can see, again, my trucks are moving real time. So that's a key way to track some of our assets like this. Our assets also involve, again, people, equipment, trucks, more so than just the stationary hydrant, just on the ground. So again, this is something I just like to point out for that ability to have that real-time data monitoring as well. So if somebody submits another complaint, we're going to see that complaint total jump up to 25. We're going to see our list expand. We're going to see our chart here expand as well. Even if I wanted to just break it down by truck, I could just select truck 1. It's going to show me where truck 1 is, and it'll focus just on truck 1 as he goes through his work orders, his plowing jurisdictions. We can see his speed. So again, that's just an example dashboard of that real-time data tracking. So with that, I think I'd like to turn it over, see if there's any questions that anybody has regarding Operations Dashboard.
Nothing coming in yet, guys. If you got any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat box, or if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and ask those live. That was great, Mike. A lot of really cool dashboards gone through there, so that was great. And if you guys also, you can send them to Mike directly through the chat room if we got anything. But still doing pretty good on time. We actually almost caught up a little bit. Well, not seeing any here. Well, that's all right, guys. Again, any questions you got, follow up with Mike directly.